Breaking tonight, several big developments in the investigation into that Orlando terror attack. First up, we have an exclusive Fox News report on cell phone evidence from inside the nightclub massacre and how it's raising the possibility of a possible accomplice again. The possibility of an accomplice on the outside. Second, there are tough new questions for Attorney General Loretta Lynch, including who wanted to cover up mentions of Islam and Allah in a transcript of the gunman's phone call. Who gave that order? She's dodging tonight, along with why Ms. Lynch is arguing that the terrorists really need a little more love. Watch.
Our most effective response to terror and to hatred is compassion, it's unity, and it's love.
Joining us in moments, Dana Perino, the former White House press secretary and co-host of The Five, and Dr. Sebastian Gorka. He's a Major General Horner Distinguished Chair of Military Theory at Marine Corps University. But we begin with our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Herridge, and her exclusive new reporting on evidence recovered from inside the club. Catherine?
Megan, an investigative source says a lot of people inside the club were using their phones to record what was going on, even inside the bathroom where Omar Mateen took hostages. The source said the FBI is doing a forensic review of the phones, and audio was captured of Mateen where he appears to be having a conversation about the attack, and he was not talking to 911. We don't know a lot more about what was said by Mateen, but the source said it was the kind of conversation you would have with someone who was familiar with what was going on. Tonight, a government official close to the investigation would not comment on those claims, but said the FBI is not actively pursuing co-conspirators, but that could change based on the evidence. Meantime, there are still questions over why the 911 transcripts were edited and references to ISIS and Omar Mateen's Pledge of Allegiance stripped out. Government officials now admit privately it went so badly they had to reverse it and release the full transcript. This morning, I pressed the Attorney General on who was responsible.
Whose idea was it to edit the 911 transcripts?
Well, in the review that was being done in terms of making those available, the goal is, of course, the greatest transparency possible. The initial thought was we did not want to provide a further platform for the propaganda of the killer.
My question is, where did the idea originate? Was it yourself, the FBI director, or with the locals?
I'm not going to go into the details of the process behind it.
And what we've seen over the last 10 days is this emphasis on Omar Mateen as a lone actor who was not carrying out the orders of ISIS in Syria, and that this massacre was part terrorism and part hate crime, Megan.
Catherine, thank you. Joining us now with more, Dana Perino and Dr. Sebastian Gorka, who's author of Defeating Jihad, The Winnable War. That's the doctor's good new book. Okay, great to see you both. So let's just start with that. You used to be in government. She won't tell us who gave the order. I mean, it's just very suspicious. Why don't you just come out and say, I was the one? Or who was it? Was it the White House? Is that why she won't tell us who told her to redact those transcripts?
Sort of say, like, regardless of who it is, if you are on her team, you would probably be pretty happy with that today because she didn't answer it. And I think that they would say, well, we admitted that it was a big error.
But we want to know who decided. Whose call was it? Was it a political call made by the White House?
The White House has leaked out off the record that they had nothing to do with it, and this happened.
I know, and they never changed the Benghazi talking points either. All they changed was one word, which later turned out to be a complete and utter lie. It was a lie.
Yeah.
So
they don't have an excellent track record.
You have to pardon the people if they don't believe these representations, and they want to know because they have believed, Dr. Gorka, the people, many of them, that the administration is not giving it to us straight when it comes to terror, and in particular, homegrown radicalism.
She wasn't going to admit it today because they were caught red-handed at the highest level, at the cabinet level. This is what we've been trying to deal with now for 7.5 years. The administration has been censoring the reality. They sent, 6 years ago, the White House sent a letter to the then Attorney General and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. There must be censorship of all counterterrorism training in federal government. You must not mention Islam. The word jihad must be removed. That was 6 years ago. People didn't believe it. What happened yesterday? Smoking gun. At the highest level, after the biggest attack since September the 11th, the decision was taken to censor the reality, the actual words of the terrorist. And I think it was the furore, just 3 hours worth of pushback, and they said, oh dear, it's a little bit too much.
They wanted to tell us it was out of sensitivity to the victims. We've had other terror attacks. They never felt sensitive to the victims before when they gave us just the facts about the terror attack, other than denying that it was terror, i.e. in the case of Fort Hood. But I want to ask you, because, you know, tonight now there's a question about whether Ms. Lynch is in trouble. Some congressmen are asking for her to resign immediately, Dana, including Representative Jeff Duncan, because of her statement that our most effective response to terror is compassion and love. I mean, I get, okay, love is good, but like, I'm thinking the guys who behead little boys love may not be the answer.
No, they need a strong, swift kick, and then, you know,
they need a bullet between the eyes,
right.
Is what they need.
I actually think it is actually much more compassionate, and it shows a lot more love to innocent people if you were to take ISIS out. That, to me, would be where you find your compassion. I do think, in a way, she was kind of talking about the community in Orlando trying to come together, but she's had a couple of bad days communications-wise, no doubt.
But then you're careful about your language. You don't say our most effective response to terror is compassion and unity and love. That's not our most, that's one of the many we should be doing, right? Anyway, so let me ask you, Doctor, about the possibility of an accomplice. Because it's not just this one FBI source, and Catherine's reporting she's getting conflicting information, so we don't have this nailed down. But one of the victims of the attack, who was actually on the Kelly file earlier this week, said she also heard him talking during the attack while she was lying there bleeding, and believed that there was somebody else involved.
This is very significant, because we have the transcripts of what he was saying to his wife. And it's clear the wife wasn't cognizant of what was going on, because he was asking her, have you heard anything about the Pulse Club? Have you heard anything on the news? So it's not her it's not her he's talking to. So if this is true, this means there's somebody out there who's an accomplice, or perhaps even a controller. This is exactly what happened in Mumbai.
How big a game changer would that be?
Enormous, because then the whole narrative of repressed homosexual identity and he was bullied as an overweight kid at school, blown out of the window. Then it is a real conspiracy, like Mumbai. In Mumbai, the attackers, 166 people killed in India, were in constant radio and satellite phone contact with their controllers in Pakistan. If this turns out to be somebody, an operational connection, then this is huge. This means that ISIS could have a large conspiracy of operatives here in America.
And don't forget that on Monday, it was FBI Director Comey, who is usually a very cautious person, says on Monday, just hours after the attack, there's nothing the FBI would have done differently. So if you, as you get a week or 10 days after this event, and you have an investigation that's still turning up new evidence, but the FBI said in hours after the event, there's nothing we would have done differently, they're going to have to go back and eat those words.
But you tell me, because we also have a president who says he's not going to do anything different at all. I mean, he really, there's no change in our plan, none.
That's right.
And is it like a lame duck thing? Because, you know, we might still get attacked by terrorists between now and November, or next January.
I think, so President Obama would say that he's done all that he can to make sure that the next president has what they need in order to, he's beaten back ISIS. It is absolutely not good enough. And when they speak, they have several audiences all at once. Our enemies are listening, and they think America is still weak, and going into an election where you see America is divided, they kind of feed off of that. Our allies are thinking, so is America going to get back in the game and start leading us again? And the military is like, we're ready to go, because we want to help solve the problem.
Your viewers need to understand one thing. Mateen is the 103rd ISIS supporter we have killed or arrested in America in 2 years. If the government did anything differently, they'd have to first admit their strategy has failed.
Right.
They're not going to do that.
There wouldn't be any debate over the refusal to use the term radical Islam if we were winning.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
The terminology is relevant because we're not doing so well. Great to see you both.